You look amazing. It is so good to see you. I got to ask you right off, how's your summer been so far?
Oh, I love this question. My summer has been amazing. I'm enjoying the sort of patio vibes. I'm a cocktail person. I'm a public pool person. So I'm living my Etobicoke lifestyle, cocktails and public pools. What else is there?
I did not know that you grew up in Etobicoke. I'm at Finch in Islington.
Right now?
Yeah, that
No
right now.
way. Okay,
Yeah,
so I was like Kipling and Rathburn kind of area, and then Royal
yeah,
Tour. Yes,
yeah.
and then it's funny. I ended up like super east. I'm now like Upper Beaches, which is basically Scarborough, but we
Well, you know what? And I think honestly, like I love my area and everything else, but that part that you were just talking about,
Royal
Royal
Kabor.
York, you said, yeah, bad for when big winds are blowing there, and because of those trees, it is always like bad.
You are you are such an Etobicoke guy. You don't want to walk home from that subway station because that is a wind tunnel. You're so right. Royal York side, you're taking me back. I can feel the breeze in my face and it's too much.
Yeah, way too much. But you know what we're not getting enough of, and thank goodness that we are getting another dose. Moonshine season
Yeah.
3. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. I love it so much. I love it so much.
How does it feel being part of such a unique show? It's funny because I thought to myself, this is almost like, you know, the from back in the 80s. You remember Dallas?
Yes.
This is the Dallas of today, but we just did it Canadian style, like we threw in some Tim Hortons in it or something like that.
I so agree with you. It definitely has that sort of like dramatic, soapy element to it, but like with that, like, in the same way Dallas has like kind of a dark side to it,
Yeah.
Moonshine definitely has that. And in the same way, the Moonshine is to Nova Scotia what Dallas was to Dallas. I feel like it's a love letter to that province and even that like specific part of the province that I think kind of is the 17th character in the show. No, that's a great comparison. Very similar. Yeah, in essence.
But the other thing is the characters are characters that in some way, shape, or form, we know at least one person in our lives who are like these characters.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's three sisters, there's a brother, there's a step situation. I think we all have these familial ties in one way or another. And we have these people around the Christmas dinners going like, oh
Yeah.
God, she's going to say it or drink it or do it, don't do it. And then yeah, it's like, it's a dysfunctional family with a lot of love. I mean, it's very similar to a lot of our stories, I think.
But the one thing though is there's always this, I don't want to use the words unsettling, but there's a power struggle. And it's like, it's almost like your own family where everybody wants to be heard.
Yeah.
But in this case, it really has to deal with the business aspect of it. And everybody wants, no, it's not just their say, but they want their say, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think this can happen often, especially like with the will situation if like a notable family member passes where, nobody's really thinking about it or looking over there. Then the second it's like there's power and money and prestige up for grabs, all of a sudden everybody's sort of going, yeah, why not me?
Yeah.
Why should it be you over me? And it's a little bit succession in that way of like it's kind of over here, it's kind of not that important. And the second it's going to be somebody else's, it's like, well, I need my piece of the pie, or maybe I need the whole pie. Why should you have the pie? So yeah, it definitely has that element of like lineage and will and interfighting over who deserves what and why.
Exactly. So before we talk about season 3, let's get people to catch up on what was going on with season 1 and season 2. Season 1 was the introduction, but season 2 was like bing, 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 bing. It was going everywhere,
Listen.
everywhere from romances to, as we said, power struggle to drugs to like it was
Yeah.
just and self discovery too at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'd be loath to speak too much about the other characters' arcs because it's not my place. But I know for Nora, there was like, and I think the whole story starts with Lydia, her older sister, coming back from New York, having made it essentially, and then kind of coming back home and having that self-discovery between the woman she was when she left and versus the woman she was at home, and like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who is she, which version of herself is she. And I think Nora thinks of this as all sort of outside of her, but then all of a sudden having that presence around of somebody who went and did something really kind of exacerbates that feeling of like, hang on a minute, I've never left. And like Nora is a strong, independent, no bullshit kind of character. And I think that that realization of like, if I'm so emboldened and ballsy and fearless, why have I never left? Why have I never gone, 5 kilometers away from the house I grew up in? Like, what does that say about me? So Nora makes this decision, career wise, she's gonna for the first time follow her career versus following, the guy she's, I wouldn't even say dating. Dating is a little bit pedestrian for Nora, doing whatever she's doing with the latest guy.
Well, now let's look over at season 3, because this now goes back to what I was kind of saying with Dallas, because the power struggle gets even bigger, because we're not just talking about the family unit. We're now talking about another business trying to basically take over.
Yeah, and I think, it's interesting how much the thrust of our show stories are based on what's happening in real time in Nova Scotia. And this, the South Shore of Nova Scotia is this sort of like gorgeous hidden gem where it's been places like the Moonshine and $50 a room for like a shag rug, but you're right on the beach by the sea and the kids can roll around in the sand. And it's not, and then, but there is this real vested interest in sort of international buyers wanting to create resorts and spas and luxury and 5-star, which I think for our show creator Sherry Elwood is like, don't do that there, you know? Don't do that there. That is a sacred ground for nostalgia and classic rock and comfort and record players, not, I don't know, like multiple screens and wrap around, solar powered porches or whatever. It's like that. I like solar power, but you know what I mean? This like the idea of a 5-star luxury resort replacing these iconic South Shore nostalgic campgrounds. And so we explore that with season 3, and yeah, it gets pretty real.
When I was thinking about what you were just saying, I feel like it's kind of like what's going on in Toronto here.
Yes.
And the reason why is I'm talking about most iconic place, Ontario Place, and what's going on right now with them trying to put this, they don't want to use the word spa, but that's what's going on down there. And of course, I grew up with Ontario Place
Me
with
too.
the Forum and the spinning stage and going over. It was like you went to the CNE, and then when you're done CNE, you went over to Ontario Place with the games and the boats,
Yeah, and
little
all the
paddle
moms. I
boats.
remember there was that massive Sharon Lewis and Bram did an episode of television there, and where all the moms would set up with their strollers and like unpack their
Yes,
sandwiches, and you could just go nuts. There was that like bouncy floor and those like weird mats that you could wiggle between. Like it was just, and I don't think it was expensive. Like you could just go there and
no.
hang out, and there was like a water park, and it was like it was Ontario Place. It was this iconic summer spot, and I can't think of something in the city that compares to what that did for families, like a place to take your kids, your nieces, your nephews, or even like a couple to go. I don't know. There's just, yeah, I'm sad.
And I'm sad about it too, but doesn't that really show the importance of what Moonshine represents now?
Yeah, I think, the whole show feels like this warm blanket of the time before. And I know
Yeah.
people always romanticize what it was like before. But I do think, with each new iteration of tech and this and that, something is lost. Like the whole concept of being idle and just sort of bored, like we don't have that anymore. And the Moonshine really represented this time before, and sort of time stands still there. And you have all these sisters together who grew up there and who land there again, and it does feel like you feel safe and you feel home, and yet there's these ghosts that sort of that bubble up. But I think nostalgia is a powerful thing, and I think it's
Yeah.
hard to kind of have a nostalgic show in real time, but I think Sherry Elwood has done an exceptional job with sort of cultivating that feeling for the viewer. Like you can smell it through the screen, you know, that 1970s shag rug and an old amber ashtray next to like a tape deck. Like it's all there, you know, and it just instills this feeling of like, oh man, I remember that. And yet there's generations in the show coming up, you know, there's like Gen Z just right there. So it's interesting. It's like there's always the next leg coming, explaining to us how it's still great now. I sound
And
like an old biddy, don't I? But maybe I am.
oh no, look, let's put it this way. You're talking about nostalgia. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh, what is that symbol?
That is nostalgia. If you remember back in the day when they had 45s, this is what you would put in the middle of a 45.
Oh my
It's an
God.
RPM.
I can
That,
see it. I was like, I know what is that? Yes, we had
yeah,
a 45. My parents had a 45. Yes. Oh my gosh, those little records. Yeah.
yep,
And it's like
yep,
crackly sound. Anyway.
yep. And like I said, Moonshine with all the fun and the family drama and everything else. That's what I love about the show. And it just brings me back to so many great memories. And it's great to see, even though there's combustion going on in the inside, they're doing everything in a weird way in trying to keep everything together. So I cannot wait to see what the first episode of season 3 is going to be like. Congratulations on being back. Before we go, any other projects going on with you? Any movies or anything? Because you're all over the place.
Yeah, you know, I'm always just puttering around from thing to thing, just bopping around. I was just on set yesterday. I'm shooting a little part for a new CBC series, just like a little guest star role. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say what it is or not, but and then I did like a series that actually a guy I went to university with. He's working on. So yeah, you know, I'm bopping from project to project, but I'm you know, it's like it never goes. I'm just happy to be working. That's what it's always going to be.
And we are so glad that you're a part of Moonshine. Congratulations on season 3. Cannot wait to see it and cannot wait to talk to you again, either on a red carpet for a certain Canadian television award show. Can't remember what it's called.
It is always a pleasure. Every time I talk to you, you're a delight. I love it. I'd give you a hug if I was in person. I wish I could.
We'll do it on that red carpet. Congratulations. We'll definitely talk soon.
Thank you so much, love. Thank you very much.